I am here with Pete Nugent at the Benzonia Public Library. My name is Finn McLaren, doing an interview for the Benzie Oral History Project, and it is February 8th, 2020. So, Pete, could you please give me a brief introduction about you, your family, your occupation, and where and when you were born?
Okay. Well, we'll start with, I was born in 1965 at Paul Oliver, Frankfurt. I'm a environmental consultant, but I'm part-time consulting and part-time farming. I'm the youngest of 5 children in our family, and I'm a twin and 3 brothers.
All right. So, what do you know about your first ancestors that came to Benzie County in this area?
Well, my parents on my father's side are they're Norwegians, so they're Andersons, and my grandmother was an Anderson, and my grandfather's obviously a Nugent, but we had to celebrate Norwegian cuisine every Christmas, which is lutefisk. So I was raised eating lutefisk every Christmas Eve.
So could you explain a little bit about what lutefisk is?
Lutefisk is a cod, very oily cod in the way it's prepared. It's a slimy, oily, salty fish that nobody enjoyed except for old people.
Right, just for the tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So of your oldest Benzie ancestors, who do you have the first memories of?
I mean, my grandparents.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of my great-grandparents or grandparents and great uncles and aunts. Those are my oldest memories, people I knew.
All right, so now kind of moving into your childhood, can you tell me a little bit about your parents? Like, what were they like? How did they meet, and how did they inspire you?
My parents were, my dad was a farmer. He was born and raised a farmer. My mom was a housewife, so she was all a team, raising kids and growing apples and cherries. So they inspired me because I liked their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So that's how I kept in it. My father, growing up, was always in farm. He was 100% raised us, and money that he made came from farming, and that's how he fed the family.
Right. And how did they meet?
They're locals. Both of them are local. I suppose I don't ever remember hearing the story of how they met. But Dad liked to enjoy himself on the weekends, so I can imagine they met at some sort of a community gathering and at a social event, and
right,
got together.
Went on from there. So, in what part of Benzie did you grow up in?
I grew up in southern Benzie, Joyfield Township. Same place my entire life until I moved away after college.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So think back to your early childhood days. What was the home life like?
Home life was revolved around the farm. When we were old enough, we helped out on the farm. We were born for easy farm labor. So we all learned how to drive tractors as soon as we could reach the pedals and brakes and stuff like that. So we were very young. So it was pruning fruit trees, gathering, brush, harvesting apples and cherries. Early on it was picking by hand, and later on it became more mechanical.
So tell me a little bit about your siblings. How was that?
I have one sister, which is my twin sister, and I have 3 brothers. And I was the youngest, so I was always on the short end of the stick. They'd probably see it differently. They probably thought I was coddled. It might probably would be what they would think. But they all, my father always kept this farm small. So it's only a 100-acre farm, and he always encouraged us to go out and find our own careers, and so we did. And a couple brothers are in sales. One brother has his own business in cottage maintenance. My sister works with is in a restaurant doing that's restaurant business. So we've all got our own careers, and I kind of always wanted to be in farming, but he said, "Oh, you need to get out and try your own thing." So, but I made my way back. I always stayed close to the farm. I lived down in South Haven for a while and moved up to Ludington for a while, and then I moved up and I actually acquired a piece of property on the back end of the farm and put a house right on the farm. So I was able to help Dad out in his older end of his life, and he, we inherited the farm, and now I manage the farm along with doing environmental work.
Awesome. So, what was your childhood home like? What did it look like?
It was very simple. It's a 4-bedroom home with 7 people in it. We shared bedrooms, two to a bedroom. And of course, my sister had her own bedroom. My mom was a housewife, and we had 3 hot meals every day. And that was her thing. We all sat down for dinner and shared the day. And came in from the orchard at noon, always had nice big farm lunch. And it's funny, some of the farm salesmen, maybe chemical salesmen, fertilizer salesmen, or tree consultants would seem to pop up around noon all the time because there's always food on the table. And they liked my mom's cooking. I liked my mom's cooking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of rules did you have growing up?
What kind of rules? That's the golden rule. So that's it. Do unto others as you would do unto yourself. So it was, my dad ruled as quite an authoritarian, and he just didn't break any rules. There'd be severe consequences. He had his hands were huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was, as far as how late we would stay out or something like that when we got older, there was never any specific time, but if it was past that imaginary time, we would know about it.
So how were your days spent as a child? Like as far as games and toys, friends, hunting or fishing?
It was all outdoors on the farm. We worked. So in our free time, though, we would go fishing. Friends of mine, we would travel, walk, within miles from the house. Go to a specific creek or something, go fishing, trout fishing, camping. That was a thing we would do.
Sure. So how was your childhood different from others that weren't living on a farm?
We understood the value of work early on, and I had some friends that, they didn't know that. very well. Uh, they wouldn't have to work until they got, older in high school, or if they wanted an extra job for the summer or something like that. But we worked after school and all the time, on the weekends and all summer was farming.
What was your school like?
It's high school or grade school or
both?
It's riding. All I can tell you about that is it's riding. It's the things that stand out are like the the shows they'd put on, or the programs we would have to do, singing, because I was terrified of getting up in front of crowds and whatnot. So it stands out in my head. Standing up there in front of a crowd singing or doing plays or whatever. But it was typical, in grade school. You enjoyed your teacher. Always had good teachers. And getting into high school, that was a time when we'd all have, since we worked and got paid on the farm, we always had money, and we would always have our own car. All my brothers had their own car, and I had my own car, so we had freedom once we had a car. So it was driving ourselves back and forth to school. We would basically, like Dad he was authoritarian, but he would give us enough line to do whatever we want, including hang ourselves if we went too far. So we knew our limits, but we had fun. And high school was fun. We were into sports all the time. I did football and baseball, and my brothers did football, basketball, and baseball. So we were always, families were always, that was a thing to do, was to follow the kids in sports. They would follow us all over the place, and it was good times.
Did you have a favorite teacher or class in school?
The career I took, environmental consulting, was because Dad said, "Oh, there's not enough room in farming right now. You need to get out and get your own career." And I said, "Well, what the heck am I going to do?" And my favorite subject was science, and biology specifically. So I studied biology in college. And John Gehring, I don't know if you knew him, but he was my favorite teacher. I always learned the most from him. So he kind of inspired me to follow a science career.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So how did farming affect your future decision of being an environmental consultant?
Well, the farm always drew me back. So I found jobs that kept moving me closer back to the farm. And I worked in Ludington and then Manistee. So I was able to still stay close to the farm so I could help out. And when my dad passed, I took a part-time job so I could help on the farm and help Dad, and still, do both. So I'm part-time farmer, part-time environmental consulting.
How do you think that today's education is different from how it was when you were a kid?
I'm not that far removed from what you're going through now, Finn. I think, without getting too far into politics, kids today don't see. Maybe you do in scouting, but I don't think a lot of kids know what it took to grow this country. They don't how our political system works is not taught. Government class, they just don't understand how our system of economics or politics, how our laws are made, that's not stressed. It takes individualism to grow a country like this, and I think it's overtaught that we're supposed to be one country, or we're leaning towards a globalist society, and that's not going to work. There's no such thing as one community in a globe, in my mind, and people have to realize if we don't keep our system of government and our liberties, it's not going to be there, and they don't know. I get the feeling some kids just think everything's handed to them, and it takes a lot of work to maintain what we've got, and it's not gonna. There's too much victimism and too many people think that they're owed something.
Yeah. So, was there anywhere that your family used to go out for outings?
I don't know, like a weekly or periodically we would go. Friday Night Fish Fry was the outing we enjoyed, and it didn't matter. Coatmish Bar was a common place. There used to be a place in Onikama we'd go often. I can't remember the place. But a good fish fry, it depends on. My parents would know where they were at, and we'd go get fish. So that was an outing.
Yeah.
We didn't do it very often, but that's the outing. We would go in the summertime. An outing might be spend the day at the sand dunes. That was pretty good. That started off with. We should backtrack a little bit, because when I was a kid, during harvest time, cherry harvest time, we would get GM employees. And GM would take 2 weeks off for vacation every year, so I don't know how this happened, but we'd get several employees that were on vacation. They would come and pick our cherries on their vacation. I thought that was crazy, but we would clean out a garage, and they would camp in our garage for 2 or 3 weeks and help pick our cherries. And then we got to know these people. They'd come back year after year, and had kids our age, and it was like, oh wow, this is like a big camp. And we would go have great fun at sand dunes or somewhere down at Crystal Lake, back in the days when had diving boards and things like that. Go and swim and have a great time with them. What was your original question? Outings.
Yeah.
Outings. Get lost in the history. Outings, yeah. It was, as far as regular outings, it wasn't much, but it was trips like that. And of course, when we were in high school, the outings were chasing kids and my brothers all around the high school athletic tours. And as far as vacations go, we didn't do much. We didn't take very many vacations, but once in a while there'd be these awful car trips that my dad would want to go on, and he would just get in a car and he would travel. And I know one year we took and went around Lake Superior, and we'd hold up in a motel and do whatever the vacation or the touristy things that we encountered along the way. I didn't like it because he just drove and drove and drove and never got out and did much. But that's what my dad liked to do.
So, do you know how the GM employees started going there in the first place?
How did that? I don't know. I don't know how it came. Imagine my dad liked to enjoyed going to the bars on weekends, and I imagine that if these people are on vacation, they ran into each other, and maybe instead of spending a whole bunch of money on vacation, they wanted to make a little extra money, and hey, I need some pickers. Sounds good. Let's do it. That's how I can imagine my dad operating.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. What's interesting too is we went from labor-intensive industry to a completely mechanical industry since I've been around, and as soon as we started mechanically harvesting fruit, so that changed our. We didn't have any more people around. It didn't require a lot of labor, except for us. We could handle harvesting our own fruit, so we started investing in mechanical harvesters and no more migrants.
So, kind of moving away from childhood now, are there any stories that we didn't talk about that you would like to throw in there?
Childhood stories. Not anything I would want to repeat. Yeah, if I think of them, I'll
Sure.
backtrack.
All right, so now kind of moving post-high school. So after high school, did you go to college or a vocational school, or just right into your field of work?
I got a 4-year degree in biology at Central Michigan University. And that was a great experience. Did freshwater, concentrated in freshwater biology, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Problem with that, though, at that time, wasn't too many jobs in freshwater biology. So after school, I got a job in a lab. I worked in a lab for a couple years, and that was it's a food testing lab. So then I went to an environmental lab, testing samples for gasoline contamination and diesel fuel contamination. And then somebody needed help in the consulting end of that, and then I jumped right into consulting, and away we went. Been doing that ever since.
What made you choose CMU for college?
My parents weren't knowledgeable of the college scene or how you go about it, so I didn't really know exactly what college to go to, and had some friends going to CMU, and I said, well, sounds good. And they had a pretty good biology program, and they still do, so I kind of landed into it. One of the highlight of my college career was I spent a summer on Beaver Island, which they have a biological station. So I spent my last term on Beaver Island and finished up my school there doing is really hands-on stuff. So that's you wait all your college career to do hands-on stuff, and I did my whole last term was all hands-on. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So how was college life compared to life at home?
No parents.
Yeah. Hey, what was that?
Young man, you're going to find out real quick. But I don't want to spoil your future life here, Finn. But yeah, I mean, it's like you go from people that are on your case about getting your homework done to people not caring if you get your homework done. And I see a lot of kids fall flat on their face or know how to do it. You know, you have times where you struggle, and get too involved in the social scenes and not enough time on the books, and it doesn't always work out. But that's the main difference, man. Nobody's gonna care if you go to the party or study for that exam, and nobody's gonna care. You gotta, it's your own. You gotta be self-motivated to go to school. And if you're not, I wouldn't even attempt going to school, because it will not happen for you.
So, as far as your friends go, did you keep a lot of your friends going into college or make a bunch of new ones?
I made new friends, but they, I was a farm boy, and most of them were, I'll just say, city boys. And after, I never I never kept track of them after school. We just, I had fun with them during school, but we didn't ever kept track of each other. It's, people come in and out of your life. It's just, you choose. It just didn't happen. They weren't real close friends. Enjoy being around them for 5 years, and it's nice seeing you.
So, you talked a little bit about the freedom going into college. So, some people do really well with it, and some people don't. Which, did you do well, or did you not?
I'm never a great student. I was always an average student, so consequently, I did okay in school. I wasn't on top of the class by no means, but I was always got it done. So I came out with a degree.
Right. So what was your first memory of wanting to become an environmental consultant? What was the first?
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do with this degree. I thought I was going to go into some wildlife or some sort of, my concentration was aquatic biology, so freshwater, something to do with freshwater, fisheries, lake management. But I never figured how to do that, and I couldn't find a job in it, so I landed on this, got into a lab, hopped from food to environmental, and then saw all these environmental guys. I'd see the consultants as they'd come into the lab, and one guy said, "Hey, why don't you come work with me?" And bam, that's how I got into environmental consulting, and I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Is there like a day-to-day routine as an environmental consultant?
No, that's what I like about it. It's always different. It's kind of like farming. I mean, you could be working on this gas station, working on cleaning up a gas station site, and then turn around and go to maybe a salt factory and help them with some of their issues. So it was pretty fun moving around, and I liked working for people that wanted to solve their problems and find the best way to solve their problem environmentally. That worked out for me.
What is your favorite part of being an environmental consultant?
Oh, my favorite part is managing big projects and field projects. From pulling taking all the tanks out of a gas station and managing all aspects of that tank pull. That's where I enjoy it. There's a lot of report writing, but I don't do as much of it anymore. But that was the least favorite, doing the paperwork.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of paperwork. So. Writing reports. The skill you need the most to succeed and is a communication skill, and a consultant needs to know how to put words on paper. And it takes me a long time to do good reports, because it takes me a while to get from my brain to the paper. It always has. It took me a long time to do any writing, but I knew how to do it good. But to do it fast and good is difficult.
Sure.
Yep.
So now, moving on to farming. Have you ever worked full time on the farm, or has it always just been part time?
It's always been part time. I just realized that. In the summer, work full time, but that's only a seasonal full time. So I've never done it full time.
And was that just because your dad never wanted you to? Or?
Yeah, Dad said there's not room on this farm for both of us, so you need to go out and get your own career.
Did any of your other siblings want to continue farming, or did they all want to move on?
I don't think that wasn't their thing. So they all got their own careers. My dad wasn't always the easiest person to work with, because it was his way or leave. So there was no room for collaboration, or much collaboration, until he got much older.
Right. So how has farming changed since you were a kid, as far as technology, work ethic, and technique goes?
Oh my gosh. Leaps and bounds. I mean, we talked about the going from manual labor to mechanical labor. So in the cherry industry, we're talking tart cherries, that's been the most significant thing to its downfall. There's way too many cherries. Tart cherries are considered a luxury product. So, and it's come down to the country only wants or needs so many pounds of tart cherries every year. It doesn't seem to increase or decrease. So you have this great move in technology where you can produce more and more fruit mechanically, and your sales aren't increasing with the improved technology. And so right now the market is probably the worst I've ever seen it. You're seeing prices for fruit that are similar to when we were picking cherries by labor. So with labor, and it's in a depression. The cherry industry's in a depression right now. So they're waiting. As far as apples, it's the same thing. I mean, apples are too, or say, they don't have the mechanical. They always have to be hand harvested, although they're working towards being able to pick apples mechanically, but they bruise too easily, and apple's something that people won't buy if it's bruised. So it's all hand harvested. Where the technology is moving in apples is it's going from the first apple trees we had on the farm were huge. They're probably 40 by 40 foot trees. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but they're spaced 40 by 40 feet, and the trees were probably 20 foot diameter, maybe 25 foot in diameter, and 25 feet tall. Just huge monstrosities. And the technology is moving them down to dwarf trees and basically a hedgerow of apples right now. And that's what the technology is. So we can produce huge numbers of, you can produce a lot more apples on a small, tightly knit dwarf and high density apple farm versus a low density, huge tree. So, and the fruit on these small trees is even, and quality is uniform throughout. High quality fruit and a small tree. It's easy to harvest. So that's where the technological improvements are going. And one of the other technological improvements is the consumer is able to have can drive the type of apple that gets to the market, like the Honeycrisp. It's a hybrid apple. It's bred for its sweetness and crisp snap and delicious flavor. So you have these designer apples. So they're in the colleges and people that design these apples are doing it relatively quickly now, and grafting and doing the genetics to get flavor and looks of the apple, and that's happening a lot faster. So that's where this that industry is going. It's going to designer apples. So you go to the store and you can see. You could go to our local store and you can see 20 different varieties of apples right now, and you can see those all year round in the stores. So the technology for keeping them fresh after they're picked is a big thing, and being able to produce those apples, nice apples.
Do you think from person to person the work ethic of farmers, work ethic, has decreased or increased or about the same?
The work ethic of farmers? I would say farmers, for farming, the farming industry, the work ethic hasn't changed. So you get out of it what you put into it. And, you either have to work to stay up on the technologies that we talked about, or you got to put the hours in to get the job done. I mean, I don't know of any farmers that don't do what needs to be done around the farm.
So how has the Nugent farm changed to fit the needs of modern times?
How do I answer that? My dad, was an innovator. When he saw the move for apples, from going from these huge trees down to high density planting, he jumped into it. So I call it the first generation of high density. So was probably one of the first farmers that jumped into high density around here. But it was new, and so for high density, it's matching the size of the tree to the quality of your soils. That's what you have to do. And so he jumped into it, and it worked out for him. But later on in life, when he got older, he didn't want to do the things that you needed to do to maintain the farm. And that's fine. The farm didn't upgrade until while he was in his retirement. Well, he never retired. He was working right up until he couldn't work anymore. And he ran the farm. He was doing what he wanted to do. And so the farm worked for his benefit up until he died. And he just died a year and a half ago. So the five of us now own the farm, and we're the farm worked for him, so now we're in the process of trying to make the farm work for us, all five of us, and transitioning a farm from one. I should back up and say the successful apple farms around here are fresh fruit farms. our farm is processed fruit, and you don't make as much money with processed fruit. It doesn't take as much to produce the processed fruit as far as labor or inputs, but you don't make as much money on it. So to transition from a processed fruit to fresh fruit requires a lot of capital improvements. Switching orchards around, it's just, you don't just switch orchards around. it's a lot of takes a lot of money to do that. So we've decided to go in a little different direction and get into some agritourism, also wedding venues. So we're transitioning the farm to we're still doing farming, but we're adding. We have a wedding venue. It's producing, an income for us that's a little different than farming. We're farming the farm a little different. And we do a fall pumpkin patch and pick your own. Some of these varieties are still popular for pick your own. And we can add some of these designer varieties in a small way. People can still get their Honeycrisp. So we're going to be adding Honeycrisp and some of the other designer apples, so they can go and pick their apples. So we're actually, it's working out pretty good, and we're transitioning the farm over to more of a pedestrian U-pick agritourism business.
So, what do you enjoy about farming?
The freedom, and you get up and you do what needs to be done, but it's it's working with the tree. In our type of farm, it's working with trees and trying to get them to produce the quality of fruit that you want, and learning the technology changes that we talked about, and there's always different chemistries. It's a big chemistry set too, because it's matching, keeping the pests out of your fruit, and trying not to use very much pesticides and things like that. So keeping up on it is fun, and basically the freedom. It's a good way of life.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the new vision of Nugent Farms and what role it plays in agritourism, and how it still preserves your farming heritage?
Well, that's a good question. We're still trying to find our way in agriculture. This is we're going into our second season of this, so we're still feeling it out. But it helps us stay in the business. Got a blank here. We still grow cherries and apples, but we're still trying to find our niche. How is a traditional fruit farming going to fit into the way we want to grow? I mentioned the economics for tart cherries are poor, but is there a spot on our farm for tart cherries? It's up in question. I mean, there's discussions about eliminating tart cherries on the farm because of this is so difficult. We have I don't know if you've heard it, but there's an invasive species that requires us to use an outrageous amount of poison in order to protect the fruit. If there's one, this particular, it's a fruit fly. So if there's one worm in a vat of cherries, a tank of cherries, which is about 1,000 pounds of fruit, it's the whole load. If you brought in 10 tanks, that whole load, one worm and 10 tanks of fruit, your whole load is rejected. You have to throw it away. So in order to, this particular fly has such a short life cycle that it can lay eggs, and the eggs can hatch into worms in an outrageously short amount of time in the heat of the summer, right in the middle of harvest. So poisons have to be on sometimes every 5 days. You have to respray, and it's just the cost to do that is just outrageous, and the price for fruit is down. So the two combined are just making the economics of tart cherry business almost stupid. But we're into this agritourism business, and the rolling hills with cherry blossoms, and the whole thing, and I look at it as you can't just look at one item like tart cherry business. I think you have to look at it as a whole and how it fits into our agritourism. There's a viewscape that we want to maintain. So we look, no farmer cares about viewscape, but we're in the tourism business, wedding business, and viewscapes are valuable. So, we have to kind of consider that too, and what's the value of that, and keeping that orchard looking nice versus something else. So yeah, we're looking for our niche right now. I'd say that's how we're doing. We're looking for where we fit, and I think we're going to stay in agritourism. It's fun. It's very enjoyable. You get right up there with the consumer. You're right there next to the consumer. He's picking your apples or your cherries and telling you, how good it is, or what he likes or doesn't like about it right then and there. And that's I like being close to that.
Yeah. So, do you see this as a possibility for other farms, and do you encourage them to try it?
I do. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, to do in one respect that you're inviting the public to your farm, and so you don't want them to, get hurt on your farm, or you have to be careful about your chemicals you use, stuff like that. But yeah, I think there's room, and you see a lot more of it now than you used to. I mean, um, that reminds me, we used to do more pick your own stuff when I was a kid, but that kind of went away, and now it's coming back. It's kind of interesting, and I think there's room for growth around the community for more pick your own stuff, and some agritourism. It's taken off. I mean, I expect to double the size of it again this year. So I think it's going to go.
So you talked a little bit about like the new invasive species and stuff. How do you keep up with new things happening on farms, and how do you preemptively strike the issue?
You go to you get involved in the MSU has a horticultural research station. You get involved with they help us keep track of stuff like that. You can go to the winter shows that tell you what the up and coming latest issues in the industry. They'll come. They also have regular newsletters and whatnot. Plus, you got the industry magazines that we can keep track of. So, I mean, we don't have as much time during the heat of the summer, but in the winter times, you go to the horticultural shows, and it's all learning. Or it's not all learning, but if you want, you could spend the entire time at these shows learning the industry. It's a good place to stay on top of the issues.
So how does your farm and new business change from season to season?
How does it change from season to season?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I should say our agritourism is, we only do a fall season, so it's the apple, pumpkin patch, hay wagon, corn maze thing. So it's an September October business. So we get into agritourism mode in the fall, and the rest of the time I should say, it's maintaining the wedding barn for weddings is that's how it's changed for us. And, okay, we got to keep this looking nice. We have to keep our farm looking nice. And before, we might have only, we not mow it a couple times a year to keep the grass down. Now we might mow it 4 or 5 times a year just to make the grooming look nice for our guests, and have it in wedding shape all the time. That's what's changing for us. Is okay. Not only it's going to cost us more money to maintain this farm for weddings, but that's taken off. That's interesting, and people like having their weddings on the farm. It's going good.
So now moving into your involvement with the Boy Scouts, is there anything in farming that we haven't talked about that you'd like to?
I think we covered the bases.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your role in the Boy Scouts in Benzie. Like, when did you start? What leadership have you done? And some favorite stories and memories.
Oh boy. I got involved in Boy Scouts when there was a shortage of leadership, and my son got involved, or was in it. He was in Cub Scouts, and he was getting up into Weeblos, and had trouble with some leaders, so I volunteered, and I helped a guy finish out his Weeblos career, his Cub Scout career. And I moved up with him. I volunteered to be a leader for Boy Scouts. So when he crossed over from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts, I went with him. I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. I was a Cub Scout, but I was never a Boy Scout when I was little. Because of the farm, there was no time for any of that business. I just stayed the leader. I became a assistant scoutmaster for a couple years. We decided to start a different troop, and that one, I became the scoutmaster of that one, and I was scoutmaster for several years, and now I am semi-retired from scoutmastership, and I still maintain. I'm the committee chair, keeping an eye on things.
So, what are some of your favorite stories and memories from your days in leadership?
How long have I been in it now, Finn?
Long time.
I was trying to. Son graduated in. When did he graduate? I've been in it somewhere around 25 years. Just off the top of my head. And I slept on the ground many, many nights. My favorite things in general are when the kids are on their own and we're doing something out there. Had a great time when we went doing stuff a little more high adventure. Great time when we go to the Manitous. Um, Great time when we do canoe camping. That's always cool when you go. We go to Manistee National Forest and canoe down the Manistee River and stay in the national forest. Those are some great times. Had some very some car camping times at camping at the Sleeping Bear Do group campsites, like on the north of the dune climb. There's a group sites there that had a lot of fun camping there. My idea of having a lot of fun is, interaction with the boys. This younger crowd doesn't do as much, but when my son's friends and the scouts would get into euchre tournaments. I know you guys do it, but they would be religious and what do I say, rancorous euchre tournaments. It would be quite the thing in the evenings, and it would be these current batch of kids. They go to bed early, and you don't hear much out of them. My son's group and the several groups before and after him, maybe they trained the next groups ahead of him, but you couldn't get them to go to bed. I mean, they would be wanting to do this euchre business, or in a game called Mafia around the campfire, and they would just up all night long if you let them playing and doing that stuff, and that was fun. But the greatest thing I've ever done was go with the kids to film on Scout Ranch, and that was quite the deal. You cost, like now it costs almost $2,000 a person. So if you have a bunch of people going, it takes a lot of money to go. And my philosophy is we go as a group, and that's how they train you. That if you are going in the wilderness as a group, then you are basically a unit that only moves as fast as its weakest person can move, and only has fun if everybody's having fun. So you have to get to know this group intimately and work with them, know how everybody else works, so you get to know your fellow scouts and scouters very well, and it's just a blast to go out there, spend 10 days in the wilderness doing some fantastic things.
So, what do you think is the best or most important attribute of scouting?
The best attribute of scouting is to see these young people learn leadership skills. That's the heart of our program, and that's teaching leadership skills. So watching these guys do their Eagle projects, doing them successfully, that's probably the best thing. I mean, scouting program's pretty well-rounded, but if I had to nail it down, it's the leadership portion of it.
So, can you briefly tell me a little bit about the current state of the organization and how you feel about it? As far as
You're not going to get me into the politics, are you?
as
Well,
far
because
as
that's where I'll get into it, because it's important. Scouting, let's say, if we had a membership policy that was exclusionary, we excluded gays and gay leaders from our membership, and then specifically the exclusion. But, well, I forget when is it. I can't remember the time frame, but we recognize that that's an unsustainable policy. I mean, we weren't going to. It's difficult to defend, and it just wasn't. It's coming to a head. It's that doesn't fit the way culture, our popular culture, was going, and it was unsustainable. And I'm stating this from a spectator. I wasn't involved in any of these decisions or anything like that. And at the time, I didn't agree with it. And I'll admit I have, how did some people modified my, I've grown in my education and in the way I think about things. Anyhow, so the powers that be, the big TP in Texas, decided that we have to be inclusive, all inclusive. So it's been a change in membership policy has taken effect to where gays are allowed, and I believe, yeah, I don't know the entire policy, but gays are allowed. This then caused quite the disruption. Most of our people who sponsor troops are religious organizations, and there's a great number of religious organizations that are exclusion or have a belief that gays are not, well, it's not allowed. So they basically dropped BSA, and it even happened here in Benzie County. Troops lost their sponsorship, and it was detrimental to one very popular and successful troop was eliminated, and basically has not recovered from that loss. So basically, during the height, this is right at the height of the Boy Scout popularity, we started messing with the membership, and now we had like 6 million members, and now we're down to 3 million members. But due to this policy change, the Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, are dropping us as a Seventh-day Adventists were use Boy Scouts as their youth program exclusively. So they're dropping us. So we're going to be down to under or around 2 million members here this year. So this decision, although it had to be made, had consequences. So we lost quite a bit members. On top of this, we have a sex scandal, not as intense as the Catholic priest scandal, but it's on the same order for us. These leaders were accused of creating lists of pedophiles within our organization that, and we didn't report this to proper authorities. I'm saying this as I don't know of anybody that's done it, and it's not done in my circle, but in the broader circle. I just read about this. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about scouting in general. Lists were created of known pedophiles and weren't reported to proper authorities because they were afraid it would put a stain on the group. They were more worried about the image of the Boy Scouts than they were worried about getting rid of pedophiles, which is causing now with the elimination of statute of limitations on these things has created quite the, all of a sudden we have a bunch of class action lawsuits created because we're accused of not getting, informing on these pedophiles and letting them abuse kids after we knew that they were in existence. So we're facing a bunch of lawsuits and quite a hit to our reputation as in scouting even now. So we had a double whammy. We changed our membership policy to fit pop culture, and we're having this sexual scandal, which has really knocked our membership down. So we're in hard times as far as membership goes throughout the community, the nation. Now, and then I think it's not that cool to be a Boy Scout member, and we take a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time to be a member. We rely upon young parents for our leadership, and quite frankly, they don't have time. So it's so I don't know how we're going to do it going forward. I know the program is the best youth program I ever encountered or ever think I will ever encounter again, but I don't know how we're going to recover. I don't know what the state of the group's going to be going forward. I mean, there'll always be scouts, but they might be more of quite a smaller presence in the community.
So, if the organization was to fail, what do you think would be the best way to carry on its ways and its traditions?
If it were to fail, I don't know. As far as creating a new organization,
Like on a personal level, and then making it larger from there.
well, I don't think it'll fail completely. I don't. It'll just be a smaller group. So once we realize that we'll be going through several years of reputation building. I think we're probably going to hit rock bottom here in another year or two, and I think we'll come out of it an all-inclusive organization. And, I think it'll always be here, but I don't. It might not look completely like it is now, but the recipe that the program that's been developed is too valuable. It just won't go away. I mean, we're ingrained. There's lots of national people that were scouting, Eagle Scouts, from astronauts to politicians to heads of great companies. So I think it'll find its way. It'll just be different, and then we'll be, we're gonna hit rock bottom here, get through the class action lawsuits. Hopefully they fizzle out sooner rather than later, and hopefully we have, what I don't know if you do this, but they refinanced, they borrowed $350 million against Philmont Scout Ranch to pay for what they call increased insurance costs. Well, that has everything to do with the lawsuit scandal. So, yeah, it's gonna be different, but I think it'll still be here.
As a adult leader, how many Eagle Scouts have you had a hand in pushing through the organization?
We're a small group. Let me see if I can count them up. Had a hand as a scoutmaster.
As Scoutmaster, and then including this current group.
Oh, let's see. There's Alan, Josh, Aaron. My goodness, there's probably 15.
Wow, that's awesome.
And awesome people. Hope to be increase that number here really soon. Finn.
So now we're gonna kind of move into the closing. But is there anything from Scouts that we hadn't mentioned?
Let's see. Best times. Worst times. I would just say that scouting, like I've said in the past, scouting is a program that is the best program for youth. You see huge improvements in character and growth, development, leadership, citizenship. It's just not going to go away. It's getting some tough times.
So, into the closing. What do you think has changed the most in Benzie County in your lifetime?
The most. Physical changes? Or cultural changes? Or
Both.
physical changes? Boy, it doesn't look much different. I mean, we have a McDonald's. That's the biggest change ever. And a stoplight. That's basically the biggest change I've noticed over the years. Benzie County's always been a summer fun place for, Chicago, southern, upper Midwest people wanting a vacation. And it hasn't really changed. I mean, it's the same thing. There's the second homes up in summer homes here, cottage homes. And then there's the regular year-round residents. And there has not been a whole lot of change in that. The agricultural business is still the same since I was a kid. I mean, as far as who's in it and the number of people, it hasn't grown, hasn't really shrunk. But there hasn't been a whole lot of change around here. Maybe there needs to be more change. But I don't know. It's about the same. I mean, you can talk about, it's a reflection of our society. We've changed in our culture as far as, we've gone from the 50s attitudes to, I think we've kept up with the times. We're probably a little more diverse than we used to be. Because, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as much change.
That's okay too. So, what do you miss the most from the good old days?
Oh, the good old days. What do I miss the most? We do have less of this, and that is, there used to be, we would go help our neighbors more, and that was fun. We would go do house raising. I remember helping people build houses, and we just share labor. Go help a neighbor with a certain task that needed to be done. Dad had boys, so he would farm us out to neighbors once in a while. That was kind of fun. They were always grateful, and we weren't into cattle or raising cattle, but we'd certainly have to go and help people bring their hay in from time to time, and they would pay us by having great steak dinners. That was pretty cool. So, so some of that stuff.
So what of your favorite businesses are gone?
Dog and Suds. It's gone. You know where it was?
No.
It was where the where's that real estate building there? Down
on 31.
On 31.
The Sleeping Bear.
Is it Real Estate 1 or whatever it is? Yeah. Near the what's the name of that? It's condos or apartments.
Oh, yeah.
Right in that area. There's the Dog and Suds was right there.
And what did they do?
It was a drive-in burger joint and sold root beer. You could go get a gallon of root beer. So it was a drive-in. You just drove your vehicle in, just much like the A&W down in Frankfurt.
And what was it called? Dog
and Suds. Go get a hot dog and some root beer. That was one of my dad's outings. He'd take us down there. Get a Friday night dinner. Nice. Going to the Dog and Suds. What else is missing? God, that's one that came into mind right away. The granary down Beulah, when it was actually a granary. You know where that one was?
No.
That's the railroad went through there.
Yep.
And there was you could go buy your feed grains. It'd be west of the viaduct, and right there. I think is there an antique shop in there now?
Yep.
That was a granary.
Huh.
And you could go get your feed for your cattle, and so I missed that. That was fun. Going there, my dad did a lot of different things. He may have even leased property in the Trap Farm. Grew vegetables before he was married. So he leased ground up around Coal Creek there and grew vegetables. But so we had pigs too, so for a short time when I was growing up. So that's how I remember going to the granary to get pig feed.
What pastimes are no longer available other than the Dog and Suds?
Pastime. We do everything we always did. We used to get together as a family and do pinochle, and we'd go to other people's houses, card parties. Don't do very much of that anymore. So that's the only thing I remember that we used to do that doesn't happen anymore. Card parties. My mom and dad were into snowmobiling. I don't know why we don't do that, but there'd be snowmobile parties. The neighbors would get together and just go do a safari, come back to somebody's house and have a get together.
So what concerns you most about the present state of the county, state, or national affairs, as far as like politics, culture, or environmental concerns?
What concerns me the most? I don't know about this marijuana business. We'll have to wait and see, but it concerns me. I'm not totally against it, but because I believe in a free society, but there will be consequences to having that. I mean, I just don't know. Are we willing to see people, can bring, we'll see. I just don't think those kinds of drugs are good to be too prevalent in the society. I mean, it's just, I think we were better off keeping it on the fringes instead of mainstream. Um, it's just your give a darn factor when people. If I've known people that were smoked it regularly, it's just people don't care as much when they're on that drug.
What gives you hope for the county, state, or country?
People like you, Finn. Finn McLaren. Young people that have their act together give me hope.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of on that of the younger generation, what piece of advice would you like to pass on to anyone of this generation?
Pick a career that you enjoy and don't let anybody get in your way. Go for it. And I would say, and don't be willing to do what needs to be done to end up, have a goal in mind and go after that goal. Do what needs to be done and reach your goals.
So,
be willing to make sacrifices to do it too.
Yeah, it's something that's missing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite part about Benzie County?
Our farm. The farm, our farm, farming. That's my favorite part. Being able to come take a walk on a piece of property that your father and grandfather worked on, and it's pretty neat.
Was there ever a time that you wanted to leave Benzie and go somewhere else?
Nope. I was right after college. I was as farthest away from the farm as I was, and every career choice I made got me closer back to the farm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, out of all of the things that you've done and accomplished, what would you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for?
Oh, for goodness sakes. That's for other people to judge, not me. He was a good guy, I guess. I don't know.
He was a good guy, I guess. It'll be on your tombstone.
Yeah, he's a good guy, I guess. If I have one.
So, kind of almost the last question. In one word, describe what Benzie County means to you.
Family.
Good. All right, and that's about it. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to put in?
Well, I can't think of anything.
All right.
Can you?
What's your favorite memory of the farm?
One?
As many as you want.
Oh. What's my favorite memory of the farm? Favorite? Good Lord. I guess it's a family gathering where we're playing pinochle and just laughing our heads off. It's a general memory. I can't think of a specific one, but those are good times when you get the family together. Everybody's having fun.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, any questions for me?
No, I think we'll have plenty of questions for you near future when you do your Eagle board.
Sure.
I'm going to borrow this camera. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
All those, they're supposed to be private affairs.
All right. Well, thanks, Mr. Nugent.
You're welcome.